Last summer, we met Alabama-based historian and filmmaker Theo Moore. Moore specializes in the history of the American South and preserving African American history through his nonprofit Historical Vision Productions. In 2023, Theo Moore was selected to participate in the PBS Ignite Mentorship for Diverse Voices initiative, and it is through that opportunity that we were introduced. We learned of a New York connection in Theo Moore's work involving iconic photojournalist Jim Peppler.
The Courier was started by a crew from Harvard that had worked on the Harvard Crimson.
Peppler documented much of the civil rights movement in Alabama through his work with the Southern Courier. Later, he went on to serve for 38 years with Newsday. New York Now partnered with Historical Vision Productions to bring you Jim Peppler's story, which was produced by Theo Moore. Take a look.
The Courier was started by a crew from Harvard that had worked on the Harvard Crimson. So they were Harvard journalists, sort of. They had witnessed on their trips to participate in the civil rights movement, including the Selma and Montgomery March and all the rest. They noticed that the local newspapers in the South, the Montgomery Advertiser, they had one page, the last page in the paper. On the last page in the paper, one column on the last page was entitled News of Our Colored Subscribers. That was the extent that they paid any attention to anybody of color living in Montgomery, Alabama, the state capital. So they had this idea they would start a paper, it would be a weekly, and they'd run it for like 3 months, during which time they would find local people they would train local people to take over their jobs, and they go off to their careers, their Harvard careers. They found difficulty finding local people that would take the jobs because even if they were just high school kids, they were subject to retribution from the Klan and everyone else that might hit their families. They couldn't risk their families. They were willing to risk themselves, but risking their family was a big step. So they couldn't find local people that would step in. And, they had a whole staff all over Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia. So the Courier said, okay, another 3 months. And then they realized we need to be here. We need to stay and be the cadre keeping the paper together. And as we can, we'll find local people to help out as we can find people willing to take these risks. We strive to be honest. We strive to be objective, not taking sides on an issue, reporting the facts. Our journalists, journalist credo, tell the facts. And with a connection to local people, gave us a sense of being the people's eyes, the people's ears, the people's witness, the reader's witness, the folks. We were there to witness for them, for everybody. Whatever, you're labeling, we were there to witness for everybody objectively so anybody could read our paper and realize that it was the truth. So they were going to settle in Atlanta, and I was to become part of the Montgomery Bureau. Myself and a fellow named Jeff Cowan were going to start in Selma and cover the Selma area. And, they divided the states up into areas, 2 or 3 counties each, with reporter in each one. And I was the photographer that I would bounce around all over, and Jeff would be the reporter. We worked Selma for a little bit, and for whatever reasons, the place that was housing us in Selma didn't want us there. They say, you're out of here. So we moved to Montgomery. Clifford and Virginia Durr, they gave us a place to stay. They had an apartment above their house, in their house. The upstairs was 2 apartments. One became the dark room for the Courier, and the other became the living quarters for myself. And Amy, bless her heart, with my little baby daughter, Robin, decided she would come down and live with us in Montgomery, Alabama. And she went to work for the Courier as well. This photo was taken in Prattville, Alabama, when students at the Otauga County Training School who were protesting their treatment and, you know, all the racism, what was going on, and they went marching through downtown Prattville, carrying these signs, and I'm talking about literally alone, no protection, just them. In the symbolism of it, it spoke to the courage it took for them, and also, to some extent, the restraint that was being shown by the people they were walking past. And I've always interpreted, and I may or may not be right, that the fact that I was standing there with a camera was sometimes, possibly this time, a reason that nothing happened to the people I was photographing.
I have some very sad news for all of you, and I think sad news for all of our fellow citizens and people who love peace all over the world. And that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis, Tennessee. Martin Luther King dedicated his life to love and to justice between fellow human beings. He died in the cause of that effort. In this difficult day, in this difficult time for the United States, it's perhaps well to ask what kind of a nation we are and what direction we want to move in.
They killed Dr. King. I could cry now, but when we heard the news on the radio, the person I was with, we were in a car, we just sat and cried and cried and cried. And I covered his funeral. And it was like, among the last things I did for the Courier was covering his funeral. And I did, you know, I gave it my best shot. I mean, I covered the daylights out of what I could get to of his funeral, given that I'm running around on foot. I got a picture of Wilt Chamberlain walking along in conversation with Richard Nixon. I mean, come on, you know, hi, Wilt, you know, and Bobby Kennedy was there. And I got this shot through the window. I have a picture of a reflection of me taking a picture of him inside the car. And that's one of my pictures of, you know, me with Bobby Kennedy, you know. And I had photographed Bobby Kennedy when he was in Mississippi with hearings, and I had a sense of him as a person. There was something very real about him. I had photographed him at the funeral and came back and we edited the funeral pictures and whatnot. And it was, I'm not sure, weeks or soon after that he was killed. And that was the last straw. Within the next day or that hour, very quickly, I called Newsday and say, "You ready for me?" And they said, "Yeah, come on up." And I was on the road, left my wife and at that point 2 children in Montgomery to go to work at Newsday. When I take a picture, who does the picture belong to? I was always into trying to make the picture communicate as much as I could see in the moment, in the person, in the situation, that I felt was important to get in there, you know. Our old axiom of photography is you crop out what doesn't speak to you and leave in everything that does. When you've got it down to what tells us the story that you've witnessed, and you do it. But the other part of it is that I'm there witnessing for the world, but also witnessing for the people I'm photographing. If I'm taking your picture, the picture belongs to you. It's you. What I'm seeing here might be recording a moment in your life, a feeling you're having, but it's you. So I always felt that my pictures really belonged to the people that I was photographing. Not the editors, not the readers, not the universe, not me, but the people that I'm photographing. It's their picture, you know. If they saw it, they say, that's me. That's my picture. So I always felt they belonged to the people. And I had this boxes, you know, negatives of, you know, pictures I'd taken of people and anywhere, but definitely the South. And what was I going to do with them? And life events led me to connect with the Alabama Department of Archives and History. And it occurred to me, that's where the pictures belong.
To learn more about Theo Moore and to see Jim Peppler's collection of photos from his time reporting on the civil rights movement, you can visit our website. Again, that's at nynow.org.